Hey, today what we're gonna be cooking is an Achari Italian beef. It's my rendition of taking the classic Chicago Italian beef and making it a little bit more Desi-fied. What we do is we add a couple of Achar Gosht spices, add the Italian spices into an Instapot, cook the meat down really fast, and then we put it all together in a sandwich. I'll walk you through how I get that done, kind of the history behind it. This is a long episode, but I hope you enjoy it. If you want the shorter version, you can find it on my TikTok. I'll link it right here, or on my Instagram over here. Like, comment, subscribe. Never thought I would say that, but let's get it started. And what the recipe you really need to do is, what you normally would do is like slow roast it in the oven over multiple hours, but with the help of an Instapot, that can be done in about 60 minutes. And the first thing that we need to get going is get the pot warming up. What we're gonna do is brown all sides of it. So we're just gonna turn on Saute Mode and put in some oil and let that heat up. I'm just using olive oil for this. You can use vegetable oil if you want. I'm putting in quite a bit, probably about 2 tablespoons in there. I just kind of guess it and eyeball it every single time I make it. But that will kind of heat up and it'll allow it to be more, that'll allow it to fry up. So while we wait for that to heat up, I'm just gonna open up this. This is about a little bit over 3 pounds. This is a 3¼ pound chuck roast, chuck tender. I don't really trim it that much because I don't know how to do that. But what we're gonna do is we're just gonna salt and pepper both sides of it heavily. And what that's gonna do is gonna add some like flavor right from the beginning, and that's how we're gonna start browning the mix. We won't need, you wanna cover it. This is a big piece of meat, so it's gonna be really hard to over salt it. What you're really concerned with is over salting the broth. That's where kind of that impact is, and we're not like long brining this or anything like that. And you can see I'm using quite a bit of salt. And like I said, if you use kosher salt, you can see how much you're salting. And then I'm gonna do some fresh black pepper. I recommend using the fresh black pepper because it can add a little bit more flavor and a little bit more bite to it. If you use the pre-grounded stuff, it just doesn't have the same flavor as the black pepper. And then when you're grinding it, you can get that smell. I probably won't sneeze, but let's flip it over. We're gonna do both sides of it. So I'm running out of salt here, actually. Here, let me get this both going. And I know I'm putting my hand back in the salt, but salt kind of kills everything, right? It's the destroyer of all meats and germs. So I think that's pretty good and covered. Put the pepper on there. And again, it's just covering it up. I've got this pepper grinder, makes it really easy. You're not twisting it. So let me get this going. What I'm gonna do is take it. We have all this left over. We're gonna kind of pick it up, really rub it in there. Don't want to waste anything. Just press that in. And this is a pretty big piece of meat. This is probably gonna feed like 10-15 people. Just because of how heavy it is. If they're eaters, then you might need a little bit more than this. But I think one batch of this is pretty good. Then you'll have some leftovers at the end. Let's see if it's hot enough. So yeah, you can see that it's getting pretty hot in there. And I'm just gonna, let me just put it in there. So yeah, you see once you put it in there, it'll start making that sizzling sound. You kind of want that. I'm gonna wash my hands 2-3 minutes, and I'm gonna do both sides. So I'll say about 5-6 minutes on, all together on all sides. You should good lock in flavor, and then you just put it onto a separate plate. All right. So I'll see you guys back when I'm putting the spice mix together, and I guess a little video. Welcome back, guys. So I'm in my kitchen. It's pretty small, so I have to like space out everything. What we're gonna do right now is work on the spice mix that I'm gonna put into the Instapot with the beef. We're gonna try to kind of walk through everything. I don't know the exact reasons behind all of the recipe, all the ingredients, but some of them were just kind of like ideas that I had that might taste good together. And they work out. I had to make some changes because again, I just don't have some of the ingredients on hand. So a lot of times when I cook is I just kind of go into my pantry and kitchen and just see what's available and see what I can put together by doing some research on different flavors and stuff. So again, we're doing an Achari Italian beef. So I think the main flavors for an Italian beef that we're looking for are fennel, oregano. I would do thyme, but I don't have any thyme, and so I'm gonna replace that with some parsley leaves. Since I have some whole fennel, we're gonna do about 2 tablespoons of this. I'm gonna grind this up fresh. Then I'm gonna use some mortar and pestle to just kind of combine all the spices that I need. This way, it's just an easier place to put it. So I'm gonna eyeball a lot of it too. So This is going to be about a 1.5 tablespoons. Since I'm gonna grind it down, we might be a little bit over 2 tablespoons. And so if you can grind your spices fresh, it does help a lot to really bring out the flavors in the oil. This might make a little bit more of a mess because it's not too deep. But again, it does add, it's like freshly ground spices lock in their fresh, like whole spices lock in their flavors for a lot longer. So when you grind them down, they're a lot more floral. And fennel is an interesting spice because, I mean, again, we use it in Desi cooking, but we don't use it too much in Pakistani, like meats and stuff. It's usually like really grinded in there, so you wouldn't really know that you're using it because these days we use a lot of pre-made mixes. But in a lot of Italian and American dishes, like fennel is a very prominent flavor. I think it just adds like this like sweetness and this like little I wouldn't call it heat and I can't call it tang. No, but it's like, you know, like fennel is very minty, so I think it adds some of those essence into it, but doesn't really, you don't really see it. It's like really a background note that it becomes. So again, I'm not gonna go too finely grounded with this because the Instapot is really gonna break these down because of all the pressure and water and cook it down. So this is again 2 tablespoons of this. We're gonna do some oregano leaves with a tablespoon. I might reference back to my iPad so you might see me go back and forth. We'll do about a tablespoon of this. So that looks about right. And oregano again is another thing that they use in Italian beef. Italian beef is really an Italian American dish. It was made in Chicago, and it's kind of like based off the wedding dinner roast. So American weddings will usually have like a big beef roast for service, and they'll serve that to everybody. So what they did was Italian beef was kind of like a cheap way to make lunch for people that are working. And so like Al's Italian beef, I guess, was the first one to do this. They just made a big Italian wedding roast, kind of made their own spices in it, and roasted it, and then they would slice the meat and put it into sandwiches with some giardiniera. And that kind of became like a staple lunch dish, and it was pretty cheap because again, you could buy, I mean, a 3-pound beef piece, it costs about $30, but you probably get like 30, 40, maybe more sandwiches out of it, depending on how much you serve and stuff. So we're gonna do about a tablespoon of parsley, and then we're gonna get into, and then coriander is actually like another spice that kind of goes across a lot of countries. So we're gonna do about a tablespoon of ground coriander. I grounded this a while ago, but it should taste pretty good. Coriander is pretty funny since it's just cilantro seeds. And then, so like this kind of like locks down the Italian pieces of it. I think we're gonna do some red chili flakes too, just to add a little bit of more heat to it. And combine that. Again, I'm not trying to go too heavy with the spices, just because I don't want it to kind of hurt your stomach later. I just want it to taste good and kind of, you want the beef flavors to come out. And then we're gonna do some smoked paprika. And this is Spanish smoked paprika, so we're just gonna do a little bit of this because it's gonna add a smokiness, but it is really overpowering. So when you eat it, you'll constantly taste this if you go overboard on it, and I do that very often. But even smelling it, like, it's very fragrant. Paprika isn't too spicy. It's not really gonna add that heat, but it's gonna add a smokiness to it, which is really nice to have in the meat. And then we're gonna do cayenne. Cayenne is really, really spicy. So I'm gonna not do too much of this again. I'm gonna do a little less than the paprika. So that should be about a good amount. And then the last piece is gonna be the Achar Gosht. Again, Achar Gosht has a lot of different spices in it. I mean, if I try to read this in Spanish, but again, like red chili, salt, turmeric, coriander, fennel, fenugreek, cumin, cinnamon, bay leaf, allspice, onion, nigella, black pepper, ginger, green cardamom. So it has a lot of different spices in there. Again, the fennel is already prominent in it. We're just upping it by adding more of it. I think the biggest flavors from Achar Gosht that you're really gonna see or smell is the coriander, the cinnamon, and the ginger and the cardamom seeds. That's kind of what's bringing out that achari flavor, and the mustard. So we're only gonna do 2 tablespoons of this. We're not gonna do the whole package. This also has salt in it, so that's gonna add saltiness to the broth itself. So put this again. We're just eyeballing a lot of it. So that should be 2 tablespoons. so you have more flavor later. And the two final pieces, we're gonna do fried onions. This is gonna add another bit of sweetness to the dish. It's just like, instead of having to fry your onions yourself, you just put the already fried onions into it. We're gonna do about 3 tablespoons of this. I'm gonna change it up a little bit. Also, my recipe originally, I did not use carrots, but since I had some on hand, I think this is just gonna be another like flavor additive to it. So I'm gonna peel and slice up this carrot. I'm not gonna do the whole thing. I just want to kind of get a little bit of flavor going from this one. All right, I'm gonna turn back on the Instapot. We're gonna put it back on saute mode. We're gonna get it heated up again. It looks like it needs a little bit more oil, and then all the stuff on the bottom, you would call that, like, you see like the darkness in there. That's like the fat from the beef falling off. That's just like fine. So what we're gonna do is put ginger garlic paste in there. We're about 2 tablespoons of that. And again, that's just adding that more of those Desi flavors. Mainly from the ginger. Italian food, we use a lot of garlic. This is kind of my lazy way. You could use fresh, but this is the way of my ancestors, so I kind of just keep going with the ginger garlic paste just because it makes it easier. I'm gonna test a little bit to see if it's hot. All right, we're just gonna wait for that to come up to temperature, and we'll be right back once that happens. All right, we got this starting to heat up. Again, I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons, just 2 big spoons in there. And that way we're gonna get some of the flavor going. We're gonna get this cooked off so that we remove some of that acidity. Ooh, it's popping, so be careful. And we got the spice mix right here. So you can take a look, we got everything kind of mixed in there. Once that starts cooking down a little bit, we're gonna put those spices in there. And it's gonna just toast up a little bit. You wanna do it pretty quickly, you don't want it to start burning. But it's gonna help with like adding the carrots in there to cool that down. So let me just get all this on the bottom, scrape that's at a good level. I'm gonna toss these carrots in there too. Grab my bench scraper. And this just makes it easier to dump everything through. All right, mix that around a little bit. You can already smell like ginger and garlic, like that aroma. It smells really good. And then we're gonna just toss this in there. I'll move this over so everybody can see what's going on. So we got all the spices coming in there. I'm just gonna mix this all around. So this is gonna start toasting up the spices. We're gonna release a little bit more flavor. We're gonna grab 2-3 bay leaves. They're pretty tiny, so again, this is just a lot of the flavors you'll see as you cook more Italian dishes or American dishes. You'll see some of the flavors really fall in line with Desi food. Again, because the spice trade kind of went all over the world, and you can find these are pretty tiny. So I'm gonna do 2-3 of them. I'm not gonna blend them in later. And then what you do is get some chicken stock or vegetable stock to put in there. I found some vegetable stock. That's all I got right now. So it should add a lot of flavor. I mean, you're gonna mix it with the beef. Vegan doesn't really matter. But if you can find chicken stock, it's just gonna add more flavor. If you make your own homemade one, that's just gonna add more flavor. We're gonna do about 3 cups of this. This is about, for this box, about 3/4 of it. We'll just put that all in there. And that's gonna release all those in a little bit. If you need to, you just wanna kind of cover the beef with it. So I'm gonna just get some of these flavors going. I'm gonna put the beef in there and then make sure it's covered to the top. If you want, you can add water. You might need to add some more water after it's cooked down, depending on how much you lose or how much gets soaked up, depending on how much juice you need. So here we go. We got this. Put some of these juices back in there. I'm just gonna go over it with this. This might take a whole bottle just because this is a bigger piece of beef than what I used last time. I think last time I used about 2.5 cups. So again, this should be good. We can add more water into it later. Instapot doesn't need to have it covered. It just needs to have enough water in there to make pressure. The last thing I'm gonna do, if you have jalapenos, it would be really great to put those on top. You can use those again later to put it on the sandwich. I don't have any, but it does need to. You do need to put some peppers into Achar Gosht. So I have some chili peppers, which I'm gonna toss in there. I washed these earlier, so don't worry. So that should, again, it's just about building in flavor. You add that as you go. Let's get that done. And see, so this is like covered, it's ready to go. We're gonna turn on seal it up, put it onto sealing mode. And then we're just gonna I'm gonna do a little bit less time on this. Last time I did 60 minutes and that kind of brought it down to the consistency of like pulled meat. What I want to do is kind of keep it whole so I can put it in the freezer and then slice it up. I don't even know if I have enough time today to do that, but I'm gonna try it. We'll see if that is possible. If not, I'll just put it in for another 10 minutes. But what we're gonna do is, since this is about a 3-pound piece of meat, you can do anywhere from 50 to 60 minutes and then just naturally let it release. So I'm gonna do 50 minutes for this one, let it naturally release, take out the meat, toss it in the fridge, and then slice it up once it's cooled down and then re-warm it up in the broth. I'm not sure if I get a chance to record me separating out the juice and the meat because my battery died. But what I did was when it finished, I took the meat and I wrapped it up in plastic and tossed it in the freezer. And what I wanted to do was just solidify it so I can easily slice it. So I have the meat here. I wrapped it pretty tightly just so none of the juices start falling out. And it just kind of holds itself together. In the Instapot, what tends to happen is you really cook the meat really fast and it really breaks down the fibers inside. This might not work. So what happens is it usually becomes kind of like shredded beef, like if you eat nihari, you know how it like just breaks apart easily. This is still a little bit warm from the top. So that's kind of what ends up happening. Since I tried to cook it a little bit less so I could add slices to it, because it's traditionally Italian beef, you get slices versus more of the ground pieces of beef. Just dry my hands so I can grab the knife. This is cooked, so really no danger. See, I say a lot. So as you can see, I want to cut against the grain. I never really actually know where the grain is, but let's just go with one slice here. I'm gonna try it the other way. So you can see that it just kind of breaks apart. So I think it might work. I'm trying to cut it as thin as possible. Still a little fibery. Let me try this way. I'm gonna go this way here. So I'm gonna really break it down, make it as thin as possible. This way we can get it cooked in the juice. And you get little separate pieces of beef that you put on top. It just makes the bite a little bit more fun. If you have like a meat slicer, this would work way better, but this is kind of the trick I'm trying to avoid. If you see that this kind of holds together, you look at it, and then this should warm up really nicely. I'm gonna try to keep going for thinner slices in this. Alright, about 3 pounds. I wonder if I weighed how much water it lost. Probably like 2 pounds left over after all this. Let me taste these. The spices on top of the meat, but the juice really brings it together. Alright, thank you. Tomorrow I'll hopefully be able to put a sandwich together for y'all. This is like the beef and the juice, like I sliced it up, I put it into the meat, kind of let it just soak in there. I don't think there's any meat possibly left. There's some pieces left. So what you do to assemble the sandwich, since it's Italian beef, is you kind of have some peppers and carrots in there that I put in there, and you have the beef and the juice, which is like really important. The juice is really important, which I see. And then what's really important is Chicago style giardiniera. What's usually different if you're not in Chicago is you won't find Chicago style. You'll find just like a regular giardiniera. The difference between the Chicago and the regular is the Chicago is packed in oil, and there's a lot more crunchy stuff in it. This one I don't think is a Chicago style, even though it is made in Chicago. There's like too many jalapenos in it, but like there's usually like cauliflower, carrot, celery, and some pieces of jalapeno. That just adds like this heat and crunch, just like puts the sandwich together. Without it, there's just no point of eating the sandwich. Just got the giardiniera, put that in there. Okay, so what you do it is get some, kind of stir it around, get all the juices solidified. Open up a bun, and you need a thick bun, something that has a little bit bite to it. Rano is the company that makes all the bread in Chicago, and this is usually the most popular bread for Italian beef. So you get mini rolls, which I like doing at home because there's not that much beef in here, so I'll just kind of go with what I have. Let's see, you got some peppers. I'm gonna just pick up like the little scraps that are left over. This is a nice big piece of beef. Then you gotta try to slice these pretty thin. Some of us gonna have that fat cap in it. But that's fine. This is here. Give me a little bit more spicy because it's peppers at this point. If you have some rice, you can eat this with that too. That's how my dad ate the last leftovers I had. So now you can see that, look, you got all this meat right in it. Got the meat, the peppers, and now the sides are dressed like kind of dry. You want more juice in it. What's really important about Italian beef is you grab some thongs, you gotta dip it, just like get it wet. And it just makes the bread softer. It gets that juice in there. A lot of people don't like soggy sandwiches. This is a thick bread. It won't like over sog it, which helps. That's why you need a thick bread, because a regular white bread, it'll just fall apart. This will stay together. Usually what they do, like if you go to Portillo's or something like that, they'll wrap it up so it steams in there, and it still will just stick solidly together. So you're not dipping it for that long where it just completely breaks, but so you can get like the bread, the white pieces soaked in there. We got it on the plate. Open that up a little bit. Then you gotta dress it with some giardiniera. Very important. Just put a layer right on top. Adds that crunch and heat. One day my neighbors will catch me. It'll get embarrassing, but they see me do this extra stuff all day. Alright. Alright, I'm gonna come in for that taste test. Soft bread, spices, giardiniera, push it really well together. Alright,